All right, something a little different. Usually I'm with Dizzy. Today I'm back with Doc, and
Hey,
we haven't done we haven't done Pink Floyd, right? And I'm like, Dizzy probably knows a little bit about Pink Floyd, but Doc happens to be in a tribute band to Pink Floyd, so I'm thinking he's probably got some better knowledge about Pink Floyd. So I'm just going to
hopefully we'll find out.
start out with this one.
All right, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, considered by many to be the seminal psychedelic rock album. Most of the songs written by Sid Barrett, who is the guy on the cover there, and Sid, very famously, as the Brits say, went mad. And the bandmates think now that they're older and have better knowledge of people's mental health conditions. He probably was schizophrenic, and it was exacerbated by apparent massive use of LSD. But he wrote some really interesting, quirky songs um, that are kind of they're catchy, but they're weird, and that's what I think makes him so appealing. Astronomy Domine is really a cool song that starts the album off. And, he's talking about the planets and the moons of Saturn and all this kind of stuff. He was also a really interesting guitar player. Not the flashiest soloist or anything, but he played very unusual, very unusual things. But the album does have a couple of things written by Roger Waters, his first kind of efforts. There's one called Take Up Thy Stethoscope and Walk. And, he was just starting to get into songwriting. And once Sid Barrett left the band, which they actually kicked him out of his own band because he was so unreliable, then Roger Waters took on the mantle of chief songwriter for Floyd. But Piper at the Gates of Dawn was very interesting. And if you don't know a whole lot about Pink Floyd, it was before David Gilmour. What happened was when Sid went off the rails, at first what they did was they hired David Gilmour, who was a mutual childhood friend of Sid and Roger Waters. And they hired him to play alongside Sid, but Sid actually wouldn't play anything. He would just stand there. And so after a little while of this, they booted him out. There's a rare photograph of them as a five piece, but they were apparently only a five piece for, I don't know, like a month or something. So,
Any thoughts about Interstellar Overdrive? Is that
Interstellar Overdrive is also a really, really cool tune. Very, very psychedelic, and yeah, in my band, I'd love if we did Astronomy Domine, and I need to start working on the solo stuff because it is tricky. Sid is very unorthodox in his playing and hard to copy. So
and this one is a combination. I think this is like two
yeah, it's
records.
kind of greatest hits called A Nice Pair. I don't really remember what's on it, but it has some Sid stuff and some of the later stuff um, with David Gilmour. So um,
I liked how on the first record it was Nicky Mason,
oh yeah,
um, and this is obscured by clouds.
yeah. This was for a movie. Um, and I can't think of the name of the movie now. Apparently, it was quite a terrible movie. I've actually seen the end of it where they're using a lot of the Floyd music, but they wanted to get into writing um, music for movies.
The movie is called The Valley.
Yeah, The Valley. Um, and it was kind of a classic 60s, kind of out there sort of movie, trying to be um, nouveau cinema, but they did enjoy the process of trying to come up with these songs in a short period of time, and they learned a lot. So
How about Metals?
Metal, I think, is a very important record in the transformation of Pink Floyd from the Sid Barrett era to the heading towards Dark Side of the Moon, and there's some really good cuts on here. One of These Days is a wild tune that we do. It's got lap steel, all distorted guitar and everything, and it's got some on it. Like there's one called Saint Tropez that's kind of a almost like jazzy thing. The song Fearless on here is really good, but Echoes takes the entire first side of the album, and they
actually side two.
Sorry, side two. So it's like 20 minutes long, and it goes through all these different permutations. Which, when they were writing them, apparently they called the first thing like Nothing, and then the second one they called it Son of Nothing, and then Son of Nothing 2, and they eventually strung them all together, and it actually is very cohesive. But they said that was the time where they started to find their post-Sid Barrett sound of combining the kind of psychedelic weirdness with structure, and so that's an important one.
Pink Floyd Relics.
Yeah, that is also kind of a greatest hits record that I think the record company made them release.
You got Arnold Lane on here.
And so a quick thing about Arnold Lane, and my band does Arnold Lane. It's the first song that Pink Floyd ever recorded. They only recorded it as a single with an American guy named Joe Boyd produced it. But it's a really classic Sid song. It's actually about a man stealing women's underwear off wash lines. But you have to listen to the words pretty carefully to figure that out. And it's almost early Beatles-esque. You know, it's really an interesting song. And so we do it for all the, what I call the psychedelic relics, you know, the fan base that's the gray ponytail crowd, the really hardcore Floyd fans. But a lot of people will hear it and they go, that's a really cool song. What is that? You know, and so...
I've gotten to like it more and more.
As
you performed it and have nailed it.
Yeah, well, thanks. But this is the first and I believe only album that it actually showed up on. Maybe some of the later box sets have it.
I like the covers with the weird eye thing. I mean, it's hard to look at without getting kind of a double vision.
Yeah, well, pretty psychedelic.
Yeah.
All right. This is how big a Floyd nerd I am. I can tell you the name of this cow. Her name is Lulu Bell III, and the photographer, their album designer Storm Thorgensen, was driving around looking for inspiration, and he saw this cow, and so he just took the picture of the cow, Lulu Bell III. So,
do we know the cousins on the back?
I don't know. Someone did.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure. I don't know. So Adam Hart Mother is, it's again, they're kind of trying to be, well, they are trying to be experimental. And the tune Adam Hart Mother is divided into several, movements. And they have a chorus, and they use I can't remember the guy's name, but this Scottish composer, orchestrator, they worked with him, and they have orchestration and all this stuff, and it kind of works, but kind of doesn't. You know, it's kind of, again, they're trying to get to their, they were finding their way. As Roger Waters said, at one point, they felt like, okay, they could put away the leather aprons and get out the chisels and get to work. I will say on that album, there is a really good song. I love this song called Fat Old Son. And David Gilmour still likes to do it in concert because it's an interesting song. I saw him about a year ago on his last tour, and he did it. So this is more also a soundtrack to a movie. This movie is almost unwatchable. It really is. I've tried to watch it, and it's got this scene at the end where things are blowing up, and this house up on a cliff or something is blowing up. But again, Pink Floyd got to do a lot of experimentation, and they like that. Um, there's kind of a really hard rockin' tune called the Nile Song, which we thought about doing it. I called it the modulator because I can't remember. It modulates into like 7 different keys or something. It just keeps climbing the same 3 chords, and it's kind of screamy vocals and stuff. And it's got some not such great stuff on there too. But they were trying to fill space with the for the movie, so.
Okay, well, I'm gonna break this in half. I just decided at this point because I'm like going, you know what? This one's probably going to get long, so I'm just gonna do it in 2 parts. So that's the end of part 1 on Pink Floyd. Thank you for doing the first
You're
half. I
welcome. Be
appreciate
sure
it.
to come back for part 2.
Woo! Can't wait.